Okay, so once you open Unity Hub, uh, you will see the projects that you created here. If you didn't create a microgame project, click on new project and select 2021 version, and you will see 4 microgames, out of which right now you select 2D platform microgame. It will ask you to give a project name, and once you give the project name and say create project, it will be visible in your projects like this. Okay, so once it comes here, now click here again. Yeah, so you will see a window like this. I mean, this is the interface of Unity. So rather than rather than getting overwhelmed by this entire interface, there are tutorials, official tutorials by Unity themselves, which take you step by step explaining you the interface. So we will go through those tutorials. So how do you access those tutorials? On top you will see tutorials in the menu, and then you click show tutorials. Okay, so I already did all this, so it showed tick mark, but you can start again. So click the first one. Yeah, so you get a window like this, and just follow the instructions. Okay, so the first one so I'll just read and then explain. In this tutorial you will begin to explore the basics of Unity editor as you play test the beginning of the platformer microgame, review the Unity editor interface, and make the player go faster. Okay, so let's move on to the next step. Okay, first let's try the game using play mode. You can select play in the toolbar at the top of the Unity editor, and that is being highlighted here, alright, on top. And what does it do? The scene view in the center of this layout is where you will manipulate and change things. When you enter play mode, the scene view changes into the game view for testing. So select play to enter play mode. You see on top, this is all description, and this on bottom, it is telling you what exact action to do. Okay, so it is basically saying you press the play button, then whatever is there here at the center, that is where you construct as well as test. You construct a game, as well as when you press the play button, that will run the game, that will simulate the game. Okay, so it changes from scene view to game view. So this center panel. Okay, so press the play button. So it gives music. I am muting it. So okay, you press the play button. Again, check this tutorial instructions. Move using WASD or arrow keys. Jump using the space bar. Alright, so test it out by playing. Like arrow keys, you know, right, left. Here up and down arrow keys, they don't have any meaning. Other games will have. Right now here only right and left arrow keys have, or WASD. WASD, again, you know what are which directions. Okay, so just try it out, play some time, and press space bar to test the game. Okay, so that's how the game is working. All right, so you can play it multiple times. Yeah, once you are done just testing it out, now again press the play button to come out of the game view. You will come back to the scene view. Okay, here exit play mode. When you are done, select play again to exit play mode. All right, so I clicked it. Now we are back to the scene view. Okay, now say we want to change something, some properties. Say we want to make the player go faster. All right, how to do that? On the left side you have some panel which shows hierarchy. Each panel has a name. Okay, there are multiple panels in this Unity editor. Each panel has a name. This left side panel is called hierarchy panel. All the objects in your game, they are called game objects. All of them are listed here. Okay, so here what is it saying? Let's make the player character move faster. Everything in your game world, including the player character, is called a game object. right? The hierarchy is where you organize game objects. Each one in your game is listed there. All right, all the game objects are listed in the hierarchy panel. Select a game object to find out more about it and configure its behavior. So right now what should we do? In the hierarchy, select the player game object in the list. So on the left side, select player, okay? And now you see another panel coming up here. All right, this is called the inspector panel. So this is where all the properties of a particular game object are shown, like what is its color, in this case what is the player's speed, you know, what are the coordinates of the player, all those things, whatever you can think of, all of them are displayed in the inspector panel. So here we can change the player's speed, and in this inspector panel you have multiple they're not panels actually, they're called components. Okay, so within each, like here you see transform, that is a component in which there are some three things: position, rotation, scale, and then there is another component, player controller, and then there are other things inside. So within player controller or controls, you have multiple properties. So in each component you have multiple properties. Okay, so you have inspector panel, within that panel you have multiple components, within each component you have multiple properties. So you can change individual properties. So let us change, so what are they saying? The max speed property controls how fast the player moves forward. When you select a game object in the hierarchy, you will see its components in the inspector. Components contain properties that give a game object specific functionalities. The player controller properties are what makes the player move in response to player input. Okay, so this component, this player controller, all these properties respond to our inputs. Okay, and so what is it asking us to do? Increase the max speed property to 10 using the number field, then select next to continue. So I increase this to 10. All right, now click next. So now let's test your change. Remember to save your changes. So every change you make, remember to save it. And saving itself again will take time. So if you make a mistake and again go back, again make the change, again save it, it will take more time. So every time you make a change, before you test it, you have to save it. Saving straightforward, either through interface you can select file and then save, or you can use the command S in Mac and control S in Windows. Okay, so I saved it. Now let's now press play to enter play mode. Now you see the speed, you see it is much faster. Okay, so the speed has changed, right? So you can control, you can basically just change a single number and the player speed has changed, right? All right, after you finish testing, select play again to exit play mode. Okay, all right, so what did we see in this tutorial? In this tutorial you learned some basics of the Unity editor interface, increase the player speed and play tested. Next you will learn more about Unity editor. Okay, so select tutorial 2 to continue. All right, so here in this tutorial you will learn more about the Unity editor as you change your view with your hand tool, move a game object with the move tool. We'll see. So press start. Okay, you can adjust your view so that it's easier to see what you are creating. The view tool lets you navigate your view of the scene. So what should we do? Select the view tool in the toolbar at the top of the editor. So here you see hand symbol, select that. And then what should we do? With the view tool selected, you can pan, zoom and orbit around the scene view. How to do that? Click and hold within the scene view, then move the mouse to pan. So you are creating a scene, right? But your scene may not fit in the frame. So you may want to move to different portion of the scene. So all you need to do is click it and move it around. Okay, so you move the scene in any direction you want. So this is the entire scene of the game actually. All right, and there is something below, there is something above, but those are all empty spaces. Within some portion, this game scene is created. Okay, imagine it's like a huge graph in which some portion of the coordinate plane this game is created. Okay, all right, then select next to continue. With the view tool selected, you can zoom in and out of the scene view. Hold down the Alt or Option key, Alt on Windows and Option key on Mac, and the right mouse button, then move the mouse to zoom in and out. Alternately, you can use the mouse scroll wheel or the scroll gesture on the trackpad. So multiple ways of zooming in and out. So simple thing is just scroll using the scroll wheel or scroll gesture on trackpad. Okay, that is one way. Or you can press and hold Alt on Windows or Option on Mac and then right click. Okay, yeah, right click and keep moving it. That will also work for zooming in and out. Okay, but I think one thing is enough. Rather than confusion, just use scroll wheel to zoom in and out and click and drag to move around the scene. Okay, so for panning you just click and drag, for zooming in and out use scroll wheel. All right, next, using the move tool, let's move one of the collectible tokens. In the toolbar at the top of the editor, select the move tool. You can also use the shortcut W. So here on top beside the hand tool you have move tool, so click that, or you can press W also to select move tool. So you can select any object. In this case this object is selected. All right, now to move it there are two ways. One is you select any arrow and move along that direction. Basically it is an axis, right? Right now this is a 2D game, so there are only two axes. So either you move right left or you move up down. Okay, suppose I want to place it on top of this token, so I move it up and I go right. Okay, so I can place it anywhere I want. If you select an axis, you have to move only along that axis. Even if you try to move left or right, it won't move. It will only move up and down. If you want to move left right, you have to select this horizontal axis. Then you can't move up and down. But there is an easier way where you can move it freely by selecting the intersection of both the axes. Okay, so click it here and then you can move it in any direction. All right, so rather than moving one axis at a time, you just move it freely. Okay, so I just place it here. All right, okay, you can use the move tool to move any selected game object in the scene view. When you have many of the same game object in one scene, it's easiest to select the game object directly in the scene view instead of in the hierarchy. So what does it mean? You see here in the left, in the hierarchy panel, you see there are so many tokens, right? So these yellow coins, if you want to call, there are so many of them. So you don't know which of those tokens map to which of these words in the panel. So rather than selecting from the panel, it is better to directly select through the interface, right? So that's what they are saying. If you have similar objects, many of them, you don't know in the panel, when you look in the hierarchy panel, when you see, you don't know which of these instances you are selecting in the hierarchy panel. So directly select them from the interface itself, from the scene view itself. That is easier. So that's what they are saying. Okay, all right, okay, yeah, so I can just place it here, place it anywhere, it doesn't matter. Okay, select the yellow token in the scene view, then select and drag the arrows to reposition it. We did that already, so then go to next. Yeah, so in this tutorial you learned how to change your view and move game objects. Next you will find out how to change the colors of game objects. Okay, so select tutorial 3 to change colors. Move on to tutorial 3. Before that, sometimes it will warn you that you made a change, do you want to save it? But sometimes it will not warn you. It is better to manually save every time when you make a change. Okay, so yeah, make your game more colorful. You can easily change the colors of objects. Select start to begin. Yeah, let's start by selecting the game object that will change color. In the hierarchy, select the player game object. Okay, so we want to change the color of the player. So select player. Then before you change the color of the player, you can easily get a better view of it. You see right now this scene is too big and the player is so small. So rather than taking a decision like that, let us zoom in on the player. One way is you actually use the zoom tools. Another way is if you had already selected an object, there is an easier way to zoom onto that object. You just press the F key, it will directly zoom on that object. So press F, you see it zoomed on the object. Okay, so you need not manually zoom in with so much effort. If you select an object, press the F key, it will zoom in on that object. Now it is clear how is the player looking, what is the color and so on. Okay, now move to next. Okay, yeah, in the inspector let's change the color property of the sprite renderer component. Like I said, there are multiple components here. You see transform component, then player controllers component, then sprite renderer component, and many other components, animation and so on. So in this sprite renderer component, here you select the color. Okay, so click on that and you can change the color to anything. You can see how the player's color is changing as you change the color. Okay, so you can drag this along this circle. Once you stop somewhere in some region, you see again inner square with more gradations of that color. So within this you can select other colors. Okay, so I will say select say this color. Okay, I just change the color and that's it. Then close it. All right. Yeah. In the sprite renderer component, select the color box of the color property to open a color window. In the color wheel, use the sliders to select a new color. You're all able to do that, right? Simple. Okay. Then press next. Now try playing the game with the new color. Remember to save your changes. So press Ctrl S or Command S. Save, you saved your change. Now press the play button. Yeah. Okay. And so on. Okay. So again press the play button to exit the game mode. Yeah. So that's what we did in this tutorial. So in this tutorial you learned how to change the color of a game object. Feel free to play around and change the colors of other game objects. When you are ready to continue, you will add an enemy to increase the challenge. So first let us finish all the tutorial steps, then you can play around with it. So let's move on to the next tutorial. So how to add the enemy game object. So in this tutorial you will add an enemy prefab to make your game more challenging. Alright, so what to do? Drag the prefab into the scene. The first step of creating an enemy is to add a new prefab. Let's add a hoverboard. Prefabs are templates for game objects with preset components. They are stored as assets that you can simply drag into the scene view. So what are prefabs? You see, this is basically made of many objects, right? The player, the enemies, that is hoverboards, and the steps, or what do you call steps in the air, and the tokens. All these are objects which are readily available to you. So you can always add a new object, new instance of that type, or you can even import a new object from external sources. There is something called Unity Asset Store. One can import from there, or there is Sketchfab, like I mentioned earlier. You can import from there also. So there are multiple sources from where you can import, or you can even create some object of your own in Blender, those kind of rendering softwares, and you can import from there also. Right now these are prefabs. Prefabs means prefabricated. That is, they are already built, pre-built and given to you. You just use them. Okay, and they are not just visual components. They also come with a lot of inbuilt properties, right? So those are assets. So you are importing you are using the existing assets. Okay, so asset is not just the visual icon that you see, it comes with some properties. So that entire bundle is called an asset. Okay, so you already have existing assets, and if you want to add an instance of an existing asset, just go to this, go to this bottom window. This is called project window. So this game, it uses a lot of objects, like I said, and all these objects are nothing but some files. Okay, it can be image, it can be a file with some animation, right? So all these files are stored and you can see them like folders here. So if you want to select or drag some object, some asset into the scene, just select that asset from this project window and drag it into the scene. Okay, so where do we find this enemy object? In prefabs folder. So so here there is a folder called prefabs. Select that and you see enemy. So just drag it into the scene. Okay, done. Now press next. Okay, now once you dragged it into the scene, now you set it up. Where do you want it to be? You want it in the beginning, or you want it somewhere at the end, or you want two of them nearby, or whatever it is, however you want them. Now you place it there. Okay, so let's place it here. So I am placing two of them nearby each other, and then select the move tool, then use the arrows to move the enemy. Yeah, it is already selected, it's just waiting for me to actually click it. Yeah, so I placed it. So I can place it anywhere I want, or I can place it here as well. So let me say place it here. Okay, once you are satisfied, go to next. You can also rotate the enemy with the rotate tool, or resize the enemy using the scale tool. Okay, so let me click it again. You see rotate and scale buttons are also beside the move tool. Okay, on top you have hand tool, then move tool, then rotate, and then scale. So you select this object and then use rotate to rotate that. How do you rotate? There are two axes shown here. So you can rotate, you can select one axis and drag it, rotate it along that axis. Okay, and you can also rotate it along this axis. Yeah, basically three axes are actually shown, but two of them will work. All right, and also you can scale. So select the scale tool and then drag it in any direction. So let me actually increase the size of this scene view. Okay, you see this is slightly bigger, and so I selected this, right? So let me press F. You see the difference? Now I can say scale it further. First I need to select it. Okay. Okay, this is still in moving mode. Yeah, you see it is changing. Okay, so all right, now let me move it. Okay, and you can also rotate it. Okay, yeah, all right, rotate. So let's assume we are done. For rotating and scaling, you also have shortcut keys. For rotate, you need to press E. For scale, you need to press R. For moving, what is the shortcut? W. Okay. All right, so let's press next. Now let us save it. So this build and publish, it's not necessary right now because we are not publishing anyway, we are just testing it out. So you can press done. Okay, you need to save your changes, press done, and then you can now test it out. So you can press the play button. Yeah. You see? Okay. So that's how the game has changed. All right. So now you try out different things like select an object, change its color, or change the speed of the player, or move around a token, scale it, whatever you want to do. Just try it out. Yeah, I would just like to mention a couple of more things. Like you can see here in the left side, there is this hierarchy panel. You just try out, select different things, and then see, say if you press this, sorry, that particular thing will be highlighted. So first let me zoom out. How to delete an object? Nothing, just select that thing in the hierarchy panel, right click and select delete. As simple as that. And say suppose I select enemy and then there is an arrow here. When I click on that, that enemy will be shown. Actually it is still out of the screen. Just let me zoom in a bit. Yeah. So suppose I click on that, you see only that enemy is shown and everything else is sort of blurred out. And say I select player, only the player is shown and everything else is blurred out. All right. And I can also choose to hide an object. So I can hide the player, right? So there is an eye icon beside. So I can hide some objects. I can also show only a few objects, and then you select some things, say enemies, and there is something called petrol path. So what is petrol path? Where is it? So instead of trying to scroll through that, once you select the object here, just press the F button. It will directly zoom there, right? You see, it's saying there is a. Am I in play mode? No. Okay. Yeah, it's better to click this. So it is showing different petrol paths. Basically, the path in which the enemy can move, how long, how much distance the enemy can move. And if you see the inspector panel, you can see start position is some x coordinate, end position is some x coordinate. So between this x coordinate to this x coordinate, the enemy is supposed to move, right? So you just need to try out, you just need to test out different things, observe and test out, check out this project window also, what all prefabs are there. Prefabs, models and materials, there are two ways of accessing them. One is you go through the folder and subfolder and so on. Another way is you directly look for all prefabs, all models and all materials directly from here. Okay. So, and another thing, like if you look at player, you see player controller, you see there is a script. Okay. So when you click on the script, so you will see edit script option. Click on the three buttons and then three dots, and then you will see edit script option. So you see this much is there. Let me close this. All this code is there behind. It's not like only the interface. Yeah, when you click on any object, oh, is it gone? Yeah. So here I clicked on player, and in this window, player controller, you click on the three dots and then select edit script. Okay. So this is the script to control the player. So whatever changes you are making in the interface, those are actually saved in this script. So the script is much complex, much advanced. Everything is not visible in the interface. So you have to write these kind of scripts to build such a game. Actually, these are complex games. Although they are called micro games, they themselves are very complex. To build them, you will need to learn a lot of things. Okay. But we'll try to build a very basic game. So in the next lecture, instead of Lego, you anyway install Lego microgame also, install the other 2 microgames also. We will look at another microgame. All these microgames are still complex. To build any of them, we need to get into C#, right? And also you need to understand what is the concept of a scene, graphics, vectors, all those things. Like in the hierarchy panel, you can see there is also something called main camera, right? So what is main camera? It is basically whatever scene you are looking at, it means there is a camera there. So when the camera moves, the scene shifts, right? Right now this is a 2D thing, so the camera basically just moves left and right, top and bottom. But in 3D thing, camera can rotate, so you can put it somewhere. So basically you have an invisible camera in your scene. So all these things are important. Where do you place a camera? How do you put lighting? How do you add 3D objects or 2D objects? How do you animate them, right? So a lot of geometrical understanding, trigonometry, graphics, that is important, and C# scripting is also important. So we will look at these things in the coming lectures. But in the next lecture, we will still spend some more time on Unity, try out a couple of other games, and then we will move on to the concepts. So right now we are not completely starting Unity. I am giving you a flavor of Unity so that when I discuss concepts, you will understand why we are discussing those concepts. That's the idea. Like you may suddenly think, okay, why are we discussing C#? You will understand that because all these are built using C#. Or if I discuss geometry or trigonometry or graphics related concepts, you will understand why I am discussing them, because all these are built based on them. Okay, so I first want to give you how the output looks, and then I want to take you backward. That's the idea. Okay, yeah, so that's it. So let's stop here.